Hey, hello. I think I'm going. Just making sure it's all good. All right. Looks good to me, I think. All right. So what I've got here on my screen is the kind of opening page for this website called Earsketch. All right. And what it's going to be doing, I figured I'd start a little early and just kind of talk about this and kind of then get started right around, the time I said or just a little bit after. And so what I have here on the site is, like I said, that opening page for Earsketch. It's a website set up by the university. It's Georgia Tech. Um, I've got the URL kind of highlighted up here, but I can go back after the stream and put it in the description for you to check that out. I've got that going. And essentially, what it is a way to create music in kind of a traditional digital audio workstation setting, but with a coding aspect. And it kind of teaches people parts of coding while creating music. So, anyways, this is the kind of the main starting page. I'm going to talk just a little bit about everything here. All right, got that pulled up, ready to go, I think. All right, so if you hit this Get Started button, it'll open up a new tab, um, and it's going to load. Takes just a second. This is a test one I did, so I'm actually going to get rid of that. Um, so it'll automatically, once you can create account up here and log in, and when you do that, it'll automatically open up what you've had done before. All right, so just a few little, just like a little tour of what everything is here before getting too much into it. You have kind of what I have here are three main sections vertically. The first one is the digital audio workstation, which you'll see in a little bit. That's essentially more like a traditional DAW where you can see all your tracks loaded and the effects and have all of that right there. Underneath here is a code editor just for normal text code editing. You can go in and change things how you would in any other code editor right here, and that will directly affect what's up here in the DAW section. Underneath that here is the console, so if there's any messages or errors that the program needs to tell you, then that will pop up right there. A few other things to point out is there's some controls for the DAW right here. I'm mostly just going to be using these three, which is, go back to the beginning, play, and loop. So that way when we play it, we can just go back and forth with that. There's a few buttons on the side here that I want to point out that'll be important. The first one, if anyone's checking this out and wants to do this on their own, if you go and click on this bottom tab, it kind of looks like a book. If I hover over it, it says curriculum, and it pulls open a series of lessons that you can go through with CodePen. I'm sorry, not CodePen. This is Earsketch. I was just in CodePen before I got on here. And it's a series of lessons, and you can kind of jump around. So let's say if I wanted to go into here, and you can pull open, I don't know, data structures. There's bits of text, bits of code you can explore, some diagrams. Every now and then there's videos to go through, so you can kind of check those out. I'm not going to be doing too much in them, but that is there for anyone who wants to explore and learn more. So you can kind of check that out. One thing to point out, though, is that this program works in both JavaScript and Python, which are two kind of popular coding languages. You can kind of trigger between the different curriculum and the text and the code mode by clicking this button here. This PY means you're in Python, JS means you're in JavaScript. You'll notice it kind of changes some of the code right there, and that's just because they're formatted slightly differently. Now I'm going to be doing this in JavaScript, partly because the class that I was teaching before everyone kind of went on, uh, I'll say hiatus, was based in JavaScript, so I'm going to be utilizing that as well. So I'm just going to close this curriculum and point out the other few things. So just working our way up from that, we have this API. So that's basically just any kind of reference thing you might need to know. Most of it's right there. Um, some of it I think is pretty decent. Others I think could be a little more expanded upon, but it's all right here in case you need to find some specific thing. I won't get too crazy just because my goal is to have this done within an hour. Um, but it is there in case I or anyone else needs to check out that. So moving up, we have the shared scripts browser. So if anyone else in Earsketch works on a project, they can share it with you, and you two can kind of collaborate on this project, and they'll all pop up here under shared scripts. So you can kind of filter those and find specific ones. Underneath that, you have just your scripts. It's another little browser. So every file that you've kind of put into here will be there. So I have a few kind of test files. I have some ones I loaded and modified from that curriculum is all in here, and you can kind of go through all of them and check that out. All right. So then the last one, which will be the one I spend the most time in, is this sound file browser. Now the way that Earsketch works is that you can go in and load up, many sound files and trigger and play them back, kind of like working in a like a drum pad type machine, or like a Novation Launchpad, Ableton Push, things like that, where you can load in the sound files and trigger them at specific instances. Only instead of going in and manually hitting the button, we're just dictating that with our code here. So we'll say, hey, at this point, this is going to trigger, we're going to do the thing, and it's all going to go. So I'll have that. So we'll get into that a little more as I start doing this. But what's important is there's a ton of sound files already loaded into Earsketch, and those are going to be the main ones that I use. They have a bunch of collections here, but you can kind of go in and filter them to find specific things. They have some by some artists, but you can. I tend to go more with the genre, and they have a bunch of different genres right here, and a bunch of different instruments as well. Actually, have a ton of instrument options. I don't use this one as much just because it is such a long list. I'll get distracted seeing what all I can do. So that's why I focus more by the genre. And then so if I go in and I say new funk, you get a small little list here, and then I can specify, okay, new funk, but I want just the snare drum. Well, there's one of those here. All right, so you can then do a few things once you've decided on your file. The first one you can do is play it just to see what it sounds like. And that's what that sounds like. So that's not a very great one. Let me find a different one. New Funk Electric Piano. I'm going to play this one. And there's that. So you can do that. You can kind of hear all of these in the project right there. There you can favorite them, so that way they're a little easier to find. And there's not a button here yet because we don't have a file loaded, but there'll be a little blue one popping up that once we have our project loaded and ready to go, you can click on it and it will just paste the relevant information like the title and all of that right into where your cursor is in the code editor. So that's makes it nice and easy. I'm just going to clear this right there. So we have that in our sound browser. So I'm going to start it up. I'm just going to say create a new script. So if I hit that, we get this option. So what do you want to name it? I'm going to say, I don't know, my tune 4-6, because today's the 6th. All right, and I do want it in JavaScript. Create. Oh, can't use my slash. 4.6. Create. It's gonna. Can I not use? Fine, just my tune. Trying to date it, but there we go. All right. No, that's not saving a password. We don't need to go into that. All right. So once you've made your script and it's happening there, you'll notice some different things pop up. Um, so we have this here. You can give it a name. Again, I'm just going to say my tune. You can name things later. The author, so your name. There, and then a description. Live code example of a tune. All right. So I've got that set up. All right. So this may be a little bit different than some things that you've used before, but the ideas generally transfer over. Anything you can do in JavaScript, you can do in here. Whether or not that's necessarily the best thing to do is iffy. But notice these are all comments, which that line is dictated as a comment with the double slash. The next thing underneath that is the init function for stands for initialize, and that's just to start up building the DAW. We don't have anything in there yet, but you need this function here. Everything we're going to be doing is going to be in between the initialize and the finishing function. All right, so that's there. The very first thing after that is to set the tempo, so you can adjust the tempo to whatever you want it to be. It defaults to 120 beats per minute. So that's there. And then underneath that, starting in this kind of blank space, is where we'll be doing a lot of our stuff. So we have that happening there. And then again, finish just says, hey, we're done doing this. So I've got that happening at the moment. So let's see. I don't know if anyone is watching, but if they have a suggestion for what they might want to do for a kind of genre of this, kind of basically the next few minutes is just going to be me trying to figure out a good source of of sounds. I will say there are a few tools that are useful. My general process of this will be to kind of go through, load in my sounds, get them all arranged how I want, and then go in and apply some basic effects to those sounds, utilizing what we have here. So basically, my first step, like I said, I'm just going to find the sounds, load them in how I want. But there are going to be some tools that I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, you can make some for loops. Like I said, you can do just about anything you normally would in JavaScript in here. Oops, sorry, I forgot. In this one, you have to say var, which is something I don't like. It needs to update. Instead of let, I'm going to make it equal to 1 this time. I is less than or equal to, I'm going to just put a filler or tracks, and then I plus. So the reason I've made this for loop is so that I can go in and apply an effect to all of my tracks at once. If it's going to be the exact same thing between all of the tracks, I can just go in and set it inside of this for loop, and then it'll do it to all of them at once. So one thing I am going to do is go up to the top and say var tracks gets assigned. I'll say 8 for now. We'll plan on 8 tracks. I'll adjust that later. That way I can just update this to be however many tracks we need. Then it'll just fix my for loop later on. So I've got that there. All right. So I've got that there. I haven't seen any comments or messages from students to check out what kind of thing it might be, but that's all right. I'll just kind of pick some more. Start loading in some examples. All right, and it was it set sound, set file? You know, I am going to double check this curriculum just to double check because I left my notes on the other end of my house. It's under fundamentals. I just don't want to spend a bunch of time looking for a bunch of stuff. All right. This one. I think it's under functions. Tempo. Fit media. There we go. I just want to make sure. So I'm going to type out fit media. I got my first question here. All right, so where I'm typing in var tracks here, like I've done in class where we say let something equals something, it's making a variable. This particular program I've tried doing in, let me just delete my little fit media here. If I type in let, if I were to run this, I get an error. And that's just the way this is built. Basically, it just says I can't use let. So if I go in back to my code editor and type in var, which is short for variable, and I run this, we don't get an error. That's essentially just making a variable, and I'm essentially just using this to keep and I make it so I know how many tracks I'll have in my song. I just kind of arbitrarily put 8 into here for now. It can change. It's basically so that way when I go in through my for loop, it just can it'll say, oh, I'm going to do this for the number of tracks because I'm going to use this for loop to apply an effect to equally to all of my tracks, but I'll get into that a little later. I just wanted to make that. All right. So like I said, underneath that, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add this function called fit media. My shift key doesn't always work on this computer. All right. Now what this fit media does is it takes these sound files that are built in over here. And if I didn't mention, you can add your own sounds. You don't have to use theirs. And it fits it fits the media. It's a clever name, to whatever you need it to be in the project. So like I said, I'm going to figure out the genre I want to go with here. Let's see. If anyone's watching this and sees something that looks interesting, they can feel free to suggest one and I'll go with it. Let's see. I'm curious about what's under UK house. All right. If I click on one of them, let's see what this sounds like. That's pretty fun. That's just part of the funness of this is that you can go in and check some of these things and just play around with what all these sounds are. I kind of like this one. All right, let's go with that. So you'll notice now that compared to before, there are these blue things. You can paste this right into this fit media bit, and it fills it in right wherever your cursor is. So you got to just be careful where your cursor is. You don't want it to be in weird places as you go along, because otherwise you'll get errors because it'll be trying to do things with this sound file where it's not expecting it. So you need a few more arguments inside of this function, so I just separate them by a comma. The first one is the track you want it in, so I'm going to say track 1 just for now. And then where you want it to start, so I want it to start at measure 1, and where you want it to end. Let's see, I don't know, I'll say after 8 measures, so at the beginning of measure 9. And if I run this, All right, now we can see up at the top, you have our sound file here, and it starts at measure 1, and it actually is a 4-measure beat, so it repeats itself, but it ends at the beginning of measure 9, and it's on track 1. Now that I have a sound file in here, I want to point out that you can solo things, so that way if I had more than one, you could hear only that one, or you can mute them, and you'll notice it grays out, and so that way you won't hear the sound file when you play it back. So now that I've run this, I can just play it. Alright, so we get the idea. I'm not going to play through all of it because it's already looped once, but we get that. There. So essentially you just repeat this process that I have on line 15 for whatever sounds you want. So it can get a little repetitive if you have a lot of tracks, but you can that's essentially just how you do it. You just paste them in order. So I've got one thing here. Let's see what else is in this little genre. Let's add a bass line. What do we have? Okay, that's fun. And then we have I think I like the first one a little more. All right. So I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to say fit media, go in, and then I'm just going to copy that first one. This is going to go on track 2. I'm going to start this a little bit after the fact, so I'll say I'm going to start on measure 5. I'm going to end it on measure 13. So I'll go from measures 5 through to the end of measure 12. All right. So if I run this, we can now see it going there. And a lot of these samples are little 4-measure blips. That's why I'm picking these numbers here. So, starts on 1, goes through to the end of 4. Everything else starts on 5, goes through to the end of 8, starts on 9, goes to the end of 12, and so on, like that. All right, so I've got that. I've got a bass there. I want to change what happens with my guitar after that bit. So let's see. There's a bunch here. Alright, so now that I've got a few, I'm just going to copy and paste some of this for the sake of time. I'm just going to delete that and paste the new one in there, just like that. And if I hit run, oops, sorry, they're overlapping now. That's what we're getting that error with. Track 1, I want to start this on measure 9, end it on measure 13. There we are. There we are. So now you can see that these sound files going. Then I've loaded in a new sound file here. And then I have this other one down here. So if I go in and play it, actually, I think I want to switch those right here. So I'm just going to change this to number 5 and this to number 8 because that's how they're labeled. And I'm just going to flip the order of those. I just think it's a little more of an interesting start to the piece. So I'll have that there. All right. So I have that. Let's see what else. We've got a bass, at least for now. I've got some guitar stuff happening. Let's add in some piano. We only have 2 options built in. All right. Oh, thank you. I just got a compliment from one of my students. I think this one starts fun. So I'm going to take this piano one here, and I'm going to, again, just go in, fit, media. I'm just going to add in this piano for now. So I think I'm going to keep this as kind of a vamp underneath everything. So I'm going to say it's going to go on track 3 so it doesn't overlap with any of our other sounds. I'm going to go in and then say I want it to start on measure 1. I want it to stop after measure. I'm going to have this go until measure 17. And we'll go there. So that'll be kind of the end of the first phrase. This is going to be a maybe a 2 and a little bit phrase piece. So I have this going. It's going to repeat this 3 times. After measure 16, I'm going to move on to something different, and then I'm just going to repeat that first chunk again towards the very end. So that's kind of my goal here. So I've got that. I need some percussion. That's the one thing I'm missing. Is there any percussion in this little sound file library? Let's see. Here's some percussion. Let me just close this. Again, if anyone is watching this and wants to sees a sound they want to check out, there's only one option. Feel free to suggest it. I don't hate it. That's not what I'm looking for. That could be cool later on, but let's just see what's if I look under instrument. Percussion. No, that's only that one from before. All right. Well, tell you what, let's clear that, and then let's see. I'm just gonna look through and see if there's one of these. World percussion. Let's see what we get here. Drum part. Oh, there's a lot. Okay. I don't know what I was expect. Drum. There we are. Oh, there's only one. You know what? Let's try it. I forgot to mention, if you hover over this, you can see some of this stuff here with just info. So what the file is, the folder, who recorded it, the genre, instrument, and the temp, so on. Just basically anything you might need to know. It's just right there. All right, so I'll try adding in a percussion line. I'm just gonna, just like before, do that. But I'm gonna change this to instead be that. I want this to be on track 4. I'll keep this in this same as the other way. Let's see what this sounds like. I may not like. Yeah, I'm not. That's okay, but we can easily change this. Instead of world percussion, let's try. This is kind of a easy thing. So I did UK house. Let's just go to house and see what's there. This is a big part. Main beat. This might be what we want. This is a big part of using things in this program. Is just finding what sounds you like and what you don't. So it's just a little level of experimenting just to see what is cool. Okay. So I'm at this point just kind of picking out ones that. Yeah, let's try this. Just go with number 1. Why not? There we are. All right, so if I rerun this, now we get this, and this is actually a much short. This is a 2-measure sound file instead of 4. You can kind of see that. a little bit of clashing, but we can... Let's change it to something slightly different and then move on just for the sake of time. Looking for something slightly less active. This one I think I'll do. So it's a 004 in there. All right. Cool. So we got that going. Rerun this. We got that there. Actually, I'm going to do one more thing and change it halfway through. So I'm going to copy that a few times. I'm going to say it's going to go from 1 to 7, and then it's going to go, and then from 1, 2, 3, 11 to 17. So instead, we're now going to have, it's going to go from 7 through 7 to 11, and we're going to change it to I'll go 8. That works. Okay, just to give it a little bit of contrast partway through. So now you can see this is changing, but we're still all on track 4. I think the piano is what's getting in the way here. No, it's that guitar. That's what I'm not liking. All right, so we'll change the guitar to something else in a little bit. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna keep going. I'll just comment that out for now. All right, so we're going there. We're going there. All right, so that's kind of the first section. We'll go with that. So I'm just gonna label this with comments. A section. We get B section. All right. So now for the B section, I want something different. Again, for now, we're just doing fit media stuff. I'm actually not going to copy all of that because it's going to be something different. But let's see. Again, if someone wants to comment a suggestion, they're more than welcome to. But otherwise, I'm just going to find some stuff. Let's see. Genre. Let's go. What's under undefined? I'm curious. Let's unselect some of these extra ones. Make beat. Oh. Okay, so these are just individual hits if you wanted to make your own beat. That'll be fun, but that's not quite what I want to do. Let's check out West Coast hip hop. All right. All right, that'll be fun. So fit media. Usually when I'm doing stuff, I'll just kind of find something and then see. All right, well, what sounds cool? What might I like? What do I hate when I start combining with other options? Just because you don't know what you may have or may not have. So I'm gonna throw that in. I'm gonna keep this on track 4 because that's where all my percussion stuff right now is staying. I'm going to start that at 17. I'm going to end this at 17. 8 measures down the fan. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I guess that'll be 25, I believe. And this is, let me just double check. If I run this, now we can scroll over. Okay, yeah. So we get 2 iterations of this 4 measure beat. So that'll be there. Place to start. All right, so I got the percussion stuff happening. Let's add in a bass. I want a slightly more active bass. That's a slightly more active bass. Alright, so again, we'll stick that in there. That's going to be track 2. I'm going to start that at, do the same thing, 17, comma, ended it after measure 24. There we go. Alright, so I got that there. Bass, let's see. I'll come back to the guitar. Let's see, piano, because I want a piano. I want to keep that going throughout everything. Let's see. This is all a little slower than other stuff. Let's see. What do you sound like? It sounds cool. That's not what I want. Piano. We'll see what this little genre mixing sounds like. It's kind of fun. Alright. Paste that in there. Alright, so we get that piano, and then we need a let's see, I want something other than guitar, so let's see brasses. Oh, there's like one. That could be. Let's try it at least to start with. Media. All right, we'll start with that. We can always change it. This is going to be replacing the guitar, so it's going to be on track 1. We'll say 17. Actually, let's go halfway after the fact. Keep it different. So let's see. 17. So that'll be 21, ending on the downbeat of measure 25. You know, let's run this. Let's just see what we have so far, because we've been adding some stuff. You always want to just kind of go back and check some things out. So we'll kind of go in from there. I'll lower this just a little bit. One thing I want to do is I want to make this bass line last longer. So bass. So instead of ending that, we're going to end that on 17. And I'll keep the acoustic guitar going as well. I like the acoustic guitar. All right. So 9 and 17. So one of my students just asked this good thing to know. A lot of the things we do in the class I teach involves graphics. These aren't necessarily graphics. It is kind of talking about the position they are on the screen, but instead of saying like an X and Y coordinate, what you're specifying is in the fit media, you have the sample you want to use, whatever that's named. The next one is the track you want it on. So right now I have 4 tracks happening. And then it's where you want it to start and where you want it to stop in terms of measures. You can see the measures marked up here on the bar. So beginning of measure, looking at just line 18, we're calling RD UK House FM Bass 1. We're putting that on track 2. And we're going to start it at measure 5, which if I move my mouse, this kind of highlights right there. And we're going to end it at the start of measure 17, which if you look at measure 17, that's when these sound files change. So I got that going. I'm actually going to do one thing. Instead of 17, I'm going to make that 21. Try and blend some stuff here. But yeah, so that's essentially what the purple numbers here mean. 21. Let's see if I can blend some of that. And I actually decided I just want my guitar just to come in later. I just decided to get rid of that. So if I run this again, so we got to get this little drum and piano thing happening on loop. So kind of like this bass right here. Should be 21, not 121. All right, get the idea. There we are. So got some stuff happening there. This isn't going to be the world's best piece of music. This is kind of give everyone an idea of some things we have going on. So I've got that there. I'm going to keep this pretty simple, and I'm just going to repeat the ending for this the last section. I'm going to call that the C section. Actually, it's going to be a repeat. It's going to be A prime section. All right. One thing I am going to do, I'm just going to keep this to 4 tracks, just because I gave myself 8 just as a way to have that many. Okay. So I got that. So what I'm going to do, again, it's just now is what I'm going to copy and paste some of this there. And then I can just tweak some of these, essentially adding 24 to each of that. So see, these are all ending at 25. So I want to start this at 25 30. Oh, that stops there. Where are my ones starting at? So that gets 25. That gets 25. Notice if I were to run this now, I'd get an error saying how we can't. Basically, my starting point is after my beginning point. It wouldn't want to work. So let's see. So I think that would be. Would that be 45? Let's see. House main beat stops at 17. 25. I'm just gonna run this for now. Let's see. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. 31. Problem is, I'm used to working in even numbers, and this is where it gets a little confusing for me personally. If you're used to this, this seems easy enough for you. That's perfectly fine. Again, I'm just having to do a little bit of math. What was that? 11. I don't. Yeah, I've got some overlap happening. Oh, that one here. And I want to go to instead of 9 and 21, let's say 29 and 45. And this one Now I can see it. All right. 29 and the end. Okay. 29 and 45. All right, so I've got this happening here. Just trying to line these up so it's how I have it starting up before. 25, 29. I have my piano and the bass starting at the same time. No, my piano is starting right at the beginning. So 25, 25. Okay, so yeah, I've got a little bit of overlap here. So let's say main beat 4. So instead of 25 to 35, I'm going to say 25 to 33. 33 to 37. And 37 to 35. Now, where I got these numbers from, again, I'm looking at this line up here, and I can see these measure numbers marked as we go. So if I rerun this, we should see them line up a little bit better now. There we go. And we should stop. Not, I have a 47. 45. Right there. Right there. So if I were to play this again, now that I've got some more things lined up, go back to the beginning. We'll get this going. Bass is coming in. This is that. That's still a big jump. And then right back. It shows it off. It's not my favorite change, but I don't want to keep everyone here forever. All right, so if I were to actually be making this for a serious project, I would, one, probably use my own sound effects, but also go in and really tweak these, get that, like I said, there's that kind of very sudden change in the middle here. I would probably change that, to be completely honest. But because there's so many sound files to go through, and I want to also talk a little bit about throwing some effects on here, I wanted to just get into that. So I mentioned at the beginning, I don't know if people were watching then, but we have this little reference tab here that's got a lot of stuff that you can have in that. And there's two different things for this set effect function. And what this will do is this will add in effects. So you can add in just a blanket, I want this effect and I want it on at this point. And then you can add in another one here, and you can specify how you want it to change over time. So I'm going to do a little bit of both, and that's part of the reason why I have this this for loop here, so that way I can go in and apply this effect to all of my tracks at once, and not have to load out multiple versions of this set effect. That's essentially the same thing. All right, so I'm going to say set effect. It's right inside my for loop. And for my tracks, I'm going to say track I. So we're just going to go through this for loop from 1 to 4. It's going to happen that many times for whatever I is. We're going to set the effect. So we have I. Looking at this right here, you need the effect type the parameter and the value. So let's see if I remember right. Reverb is the effect type. Reverb underscore, is it mix? I had trouble with the decay time getting this to load. So mix, and I'm going to say 0.5. We'll see if I get an error with this. All right, yeah, I got an error with that. So it's not that one. Tell you what, let's, there is a thing right here. If I go into set effect, nope, set effect, helps when you can click on stuff. And let's see if I just scroll down a bit, not that one. That's talking about what I just talked about now. Effects, this is partly what I want. There we are, more effects. So there's a bunch of effects that are built in. Okay, no, it's not reverb mix, it's just mix. There we are. So if I run this, there we go. So now you'll see there's some extra tracks up here. And if I kind of scroll down, you'll see, so there's these extra tracks that got loaded in there. Yeah, so essentially what this is, this reverb mix, it's essentially how much of the reverb is in the sound. So it's think of it like a when you're if you were to mix something at a console, you have all the sliders. Actually, I have one here. So you have a mixer. If you were to go in and mix the levels and amounts of sounds with all of them in there, that's essentially what this is. So I went and picked 0.5 because 0 is none of it and 1 is all of it. So 0.5 is right in the middle, and then you can adjust it from there. So that's essentially what that is, and then this will add in an effect track for each effect applied to a track. So you'll notice we have 1, and then the effect for reverb, mix, bypass, and so on and so on. If I wanted to change this amount, I could go in and specify that with some additional arguments. But for now, I just want to make this the same for all of them. So that's why I did it in the for loop, like so. So if you listen to it, it's a little more reverby. It sounds kind of like it's more in a bigger space, because we now added in some of that mix. I'm trying to see if I can adjust that decay a little bit. Because I mean, I like the reverb, but I'm the biggest fan of their reverb. I still get errors that, despite that being exactly what's in their thing there, their reverb decay has been broken. So that's important. So that's unfortunate. All right, I'm gonna stop this. I'm going to add one more kind of master effect to everything, and that's just I want it all to fade out towards the end. So if I go to set effect, and instead of reverb, I'm just going to say volume. When you adjust a volume, you're adjusting the gain, and that's essentially how much of the signal is there. That's the real broad way of thinking about it. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to automate a few of these. So you need to say where you want the signal to be at when it starts. So I'm going to say 0 dB. As a refresher, the dB, that's The decibels, that's how loud your sound is. It starts with 0 is the initial volume that your sound was recorded at. You have not changed it. And it can go all the way down to -60 or +12. So you can either make it much louder or much softer. We'll get into that. We didn't get in too much into that into the class before everything kind of stopped, but that's essentially what's going to happen here. So I'm going to have it start at normal volume, and I want this to go until, let's say, over the last 4 measures, so 41, and then I want it to go to -60 by 45. All right, so if I rerun this, there we are. We now have an additional effect track underneath our sound files here, but you notice this is the volume of it here. It's all just everything, and then starting at 41, every track gets softer until the end. So if I see if I adjust that, no, I can't. But if I run this, so we have this happening, and then as we approach measure 41, you'll notice that it starts to get softer. So we have that's happening there. So let's see if I go to this. All right. So I've just pulled up this page in the curriculum here for every effect explained in detail. And this kind of talks about a lot of the effects here. What so I have bandpass. Can I? Where is that at? 30. I just want to be able to see what all the options are. I can't see them all. So got bandpass. I have to go through them all manually. So I just want to add 1 or 2 to just a few of these, just so we can hear them out. So I'm going to add in a chorus. That was one I wanted to do. So it's going to be set effect. Set effect. Only my shift key would continually work. There we go. So for this one, it's going to be the track name. Let's see. I want to put the chorus. Let's put this chorus on our guitar. So track number 1. It's going to be chorus. Let's see. So we can then affect all of these parameters of it here. So chorus underscore mod. And then I want to set it to, okay, so this is all pretty useful. It has the minimum and maximum values and the default. 0.7. Let's set that a little lower to 0.5. And then I want to affect one more parameter. So instead of the mod, I want to go to the mix and just lower that a little bit as well. So it's there, but it's not super effective. I'll keep it right at 0.5. So it's there, but it's not the most prominent thing that's happening. All right. So I got that going. There's the chorus, compressor. I'll add a compressor to everything just so we can hear what that sounds like in comparison. Set effect. These has to be all caps. Because this is an argument for the set effect function, they just have to be all caps. So we've done a little bit of that in our class before. We get that going on there. So have that default value. Oh, and it has the example there. That's also nice. Compressor. So the ratio is how much of the there. So I'm actually going to adjust. That's at 10. I'm going to make this a little more compressed. So compressor underscore ratio, and then we get not period, comma, starts at 10, so I'm gonna make that 25. All right. Okay, anything else? I'm just gonna go through this and see what else is there. I don't want a delay or distortion. I could do an EQ or a filter. Let's do a filter on the piano. All right. So by copying this, I'm just going to change that to filter. And this is going to be the filter frequency. All right, so basically what this does is whenever a sound goes through, it's going to check and see what the frequency of it is, whether it's high or low. And anything above the point I say here, it will start to cut off. So let's get rid of some of this higher stuff. Let's say above 4,000 hertz. Let's change this to track 3. And so we have that there. I'm just going to go through and see what else we have. Flanger, pan. Ooh, pan will be useful. What do I have here? Semicolon. Oh, and I misspelled set. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to pan these different sounds. So if you're listening to this in headphones or in stereo speakers like I have here, you'll be able to hear this a little more apparent. So let's see. So I'm going to start off just by copying this. There we go. Because I'm going to have to do this a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want this for every one of my tracks, but I want them to be slightly different, so that's why I'm not putting them in this for loop. So instead of track 1, track 2, 3, and 4. So having this at this range, as you can see on the screen here, goes from negative 100 to 100, and having it all the way at negative 100 is all the way to one side. It's to the out of your left speaker, and having it all the way to positive 100 is all the way in the other. So they're all defaulted to right in the middle. I'm going to keep track 4 right there, but I'm going to set my guitar, say 100.0, 50.0, negative 50, and then this one will be 0.0. Okay, so now I just go in and semicolons. All right, so now we should hear some slightly different stuff. I'm just going to go through this. I'm going to add one more, and it's going to be this pitch shift, and then that'll be kind of it, because we are going a little longer on my time. I don't want to go too long. I said about an hour or so, but I just want to add one more automated pitch shift. I'll add that to the bass, which was the track 2. All right. So there we are, and that's going to be track 2. So what this does, this is just shifts the pitch down by a half step or one note on a keyboard over the range of either one octave up or down. So pitch shift, I want to start it at 0 at measure 37, and I want it to be all the way down at negative 12 by measure 45. All right, so if I run that, it's got to think. There's a lot of stuff now. So there's a lot of tracks to look at here now. I'm trying to think. I know there's a button to hide these effect tracks. Oh, that's fun. I haven't done it with the blocks. Um, but I know there's a way to hide these. I'm not going to go into that much right now. Anyways, but for the sake of time, I'm going to close that, close this. I'm going to play the little ditty. It's not the best ditty in the world, but you can kind of hear some of these effects. So I've got a bunch of stuff happening on track 1 with the guitar, some stuff with the bass, but you can kind of see some of this. There's everything that's the same between all the tracks is right here, and that's everything in this for loop. And then everyone's pan, they also have a pan, but they're all slightly different, so I didn't do it in the for loop. And then I have the pitch shift at the very end in the bass. So let's hear what it sounds like, and I think that'll finish it out. All right, again, here's a not the best sound in the world, but I think I showed off a good amount of things you can do in this program. So you should have the percussion in the middle. I can hear the bass more on my left. Piano a little more on my right. So, again, I just kind of showed these in a brief kind of context. A lot of these automations were spread out over several measures, as you can kind of tell with that that pitch shift right at the very end. You can speed these up a lot. You can change different parameters. You can add more. I only did 3 or 4 of them. But you can really do quite a lot in this for making just little songs and beats and things. Like I said, this one. They have a large variety of sounds. And like I said, I was just kind of filtering some of these, but there's a ton of different options for you to kind of go through and set it through. Like if I just click on this instruments tab, they have all these different instruments here. Still going. There we are. So you can kind of check all those out. It's a lot of fun. There was going to be a project for my class of actually making a 30-second little tune in this program. Obviously, that's not going to be able to happen now, but I just wanted to show that. I kind of just, like I said, I live streamed this. I had a few people asking some occasional questions, so that was fun. I actually wasn't sure if people would check it out or not, but that was there. And then this will just be on YouTube for people to check out if they want for a general, here's how you do some stuff in Earsketch. At least in the JavaScript version of it. I think I showed off most of the base things. If you're interested in learning more, I'll put a link to the website here so you can check that out. And then again, clicking on this curriculum tab at the very bottom here will open up a series of lessons. And if you just go right to that fundamentals one, right at the very beginning, it'll just kind of walk you through, here's how you get started, here's the idea, things. Oh, one of my students says this track is cool, so thank you very much. There's that. They have all kinds of videos showing you how to do stuff. One last little thing you can do, just so I can show that off, is these little icons at the top. That's the curriculum bit. I think it's this one. No, that's the curriculum URL. There's a way to export the sound file, but honestly, I haven't. There's a way to do that. I legit, that's one thing I didn't look at before I got into here. So let's look just a little bit, and then if I don't find it, I will keep going, and that'll kind of end it out. Optional. Ooh, MIR is fun. So you can do some other stuff with analyzing it. We don't need to get into that. That's a little more advanced stuff there. So let's so you can save this, and it'll save it to. This is all saved on the cloud on their servers, just like if you were doing stuff in P5 or another online code editor. It's saved on their servers, so you don't have to store this on your stuff. Editor shortcuts. Could have sworn there was a way to. No. Maybe if I go to, here it is, my tune. There we are, download. So if I go to my tune and right here in the file editor, hit download, you can choose how you want to download it. There's different options here. You can do it as the text, the code. You can do it in different sound files. I didn't go over this in class, but a WAV file has more information than an MP3 file, so it's a bigger file, has better quality versus the MP3, which is a little bit of a less quality stuff, so it takes up less space. I still don't think they sound too bad, but if you want the best, or most of the time they don't sound too bad, but if you want the best quality, you can do WAV, or you can separate out all of the tracks so you could put them in a different program. So if I wanted to download that, preparing my download, it's going to do its thing. It should be doing its thing. There we are. So now I have the option to download mytune.wave. And if I open up a new tab, actually that's not going to open in this program. You can hear it playing now. Ah, dang it. All right. Well, we all got to see my text messages at the very end of that. And I think I accidentally broke stuff. Well, we'll see how that's all going. Anyways, you can download that. We're going to go from there. I may edit out some of that stuff at the end, but we get the idea. All right. Well, thank you all for everyone who tuned in, and have a great day. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you all when I see you.